Folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, the SEC's greatest rivalries. I'm Mike with EJ. How's it going, buddy?
It's going. I feel like I say that most weeks, but this one's been a rough couple days. I feel like I don't know. Just
What's
feel
going on?
feel just exhausted. We'll get into it later, but one of the worst beats betting wise ever is still
Mhm.
weighing on me, and it's still annoying me, which it shouldn't anymore. But I haven't turned the page yet. I'm hoping to turn the
Mhm.
page today.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that was a bad beat. That was definitely a bad beat.
Like my soul left my body. And for the listeners here that were with me, Jimmy and Marin, they can attest to it. It was, yeah, rough.
I thought you were talking about all of the Jaeger shots that you lost on.
That was also equally insane. And
That's a little medicine to help the pain go down, though.
it was way too much medicine.
Always is.
I mean, we ended up finishing like the full bottle in a matter of like a couple hours. So
Well, that's the goal, right?
them's are the
Like, so
rules.
was it you three, or was Kelly partaking, or
Kelly really wasn't, but it was myself, Jimmy, Marin, and Aaron were here.
gotcha?
And excuse me, Haley, Marin's sister as well. So it was it was a nice little crew, guys versus girls. And the last time we did this, the girls were in a rough shape. And did a lot of the losing, and the law of averages flipped the script on
Law of
Jimmy and I,
averages, baby.
and it was a crazy game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, there was. Let's see. Yeah, K State was a bad beat. I mean, Michigan was just like so frustrating for me. Like, and I reached out to you when you got sent to the shadow realm, but I tried to reach out to you to get your feel on that, but you told me that you would have picked Michigan to cover, which, I mean, who would have thought that it was like watching the Steelers, except we didn't even get to the red zone on Sunday. But
Yeah.
I mean, just red zone collapses. So that sucked. That one missed by half a point.
Yeah.
But the big the big one from the weekend, well, not the big one on Saturday, was my nice little 6-leg teaser that I hit, which we told you folks. We said last week, ranked teams on the road. Be careful, beware. And maybe an all-time bad beat for some, but great cover for me was Penn State, which, I mean, what a heartbreaker of a game for Penn State. You know, being from Western Pennsylvania, have plenty of friends who are Penn State fans. And boy, I mean, I went up to I was assembling like a lot of baby furniture this weekend, and boy, just walked out of the room for 2 minutes and come back, and Penn State scored, or Ohio State scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth. The D lineman who had the strips, or the outside linebacker at the strip sack, also then intercepted a ball and ran in. So it was just perilous, but thank goodness the good folks at Penn State saw fit to drive down, get a cover for me. That was just beautiful. But ranked teams on the road had a
Just
nice
home,
little teaser.
yeah, home dogs, man. Gotta always watch those home dogs.
Nice. Well, but specifically we targeted the ranked teams that were on the road. The ranked teams. I didn't
Right.
check.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't do dogs across the board, home dogs across
No.
the board, but ranked teams on the road. Teaser with Penn State, the Mountaineers, which should have just been a regular old cover. Cal covered by like half a point as well, which was awesome. Louisville, straight up win there. K-State, shellacking from start to finish. And then A&M also just barely got the cover for me there. So it was that was wonderful. That little 6-legger hit. And I didn't actually tell you, EJ. I shout out to Dan. My money don't jingle jurgle, it folds. He just had a feeling going, and we both bet Michigan. that lost, and then Sunday afternoon, in the midst of watching the Steelers just get smacked, he texts me. He's like, "I got a good feeling about," or what did he specifically say? I'm not gonna scroll back and find it, but he said like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey 2 touchdowns each. That sounds good. I'm like, I'm tailing you on that. So I
Oh, this
bet
wasn't the Zach Moss bet.
no, well, no, I did bet Zach Moss, but
Yeah.
McCaffrey to score, Taylor to score, parlay that. And I took Henry to score 2, McCaffrey to score 2, and parlay that. And that total grouping right there was just a massive, massive win. I mean, that was just, it was plus 4,200 odds for them to both score 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
And Christian ran one, caught one, and threw one.
Threw one. Yeah, I saw his pass.
At a baby. So that was that really, between that little teaser parlay and then that happening, it set up for the one of the best weekends I've had since week 1. So it was just that was really what I needed. I was ready to quit gambling on I was actually ready to quit gambling Saturday afternoon after West Virginia.
Yeah.
I felt we both felt really good about that one. Halloween in Morgantown.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll just go right to pick them. Yeah. So that was just one of the worst beats ever. You had TCU had a million options on how to end that game, and lobbing a bomb to the fucking end zone was very, very low on the fucking list. But it happened. They broke the cover. West Virginia was set the cover. All TCU had to do was knee it, had to draw them off sides, which they did, and chuck the ball on the ground. I could probably walk you through about 10 other options.
Just run around, run backwards for a while.
Yeah. Nope. Instead, just play 500 and lob it to your NFL receiver who's 6'5" against a 5'8" college corner. Yeah, so that was terrible. I didn't bet that much on it, but it was just the fact that I was feeling great about at least getting to 2 wins for the pick'em. Obviously, still making money, and I had a big parlay that Kentucky ended up messing up anyway, but that it was good. I think I do like 10 teams, and I think I lost 2 of the games. So that was just terrible. But I will say, because
it was a 10 team against the spread parlay.
Yeah, all
wow, attaboy.
Yeah, and it was all underdogs, and the 2 that screwed up were West Virginia and Kentucky. So yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. It was like, I'll throw $5 on it, right? I didn't throw anything crazy. $5 on all the games I felt good about, and it was great. And of course, the 3 I pick, only 2 of them hit. So the 2 that lost. That's just how it goes. But yeah, so that did prompt me, especially with our game. So we were playing our drinking game to the Louisville game because Jimmy was here, and so basically, it's just you have 2 teams. One team picks whether the next touchdown, regardless of the team, is going to be a passing touchdown or receiving or a rushing touchdown, and then the other team picks whether the next turnover was going to be an interception or a fumble. And by God, we lost them all. And of course, if you looked at the score or watched the game, I think there was like 10 turnovers and multiple touchdowns. So that was just terrible. But I ended up in my sorrow live betting Oregon minus 11.5. And it was a big bet, like Texas, one of my bigger bets that I usually do, and it hit, thank God. So that put me at least in a good spot. In the NFL, I didn't end up betting anything. I don't know. I just didn't end up didn't pay close enough attention. Like there wasn't too much that I really loved. So
well, and speaking of Kentucky, when I also bet on that game with Dan, my money don't juggle, it folds. And buddy, like we're sitting there and we're like, how stupid are we? Like just watching both games unfold, it's like, okay, we chose to ride in on the horse with a team playing a rivalry game against a bitter rival at night. You know, we chose that horse to ride on, and they can't score a freaking touchdown in the red zone to save their life versus a red hot Tennessee in the black uniforms at home at night against a basketball school.
I
And
mean,
just boy, felt so stupid watching that game.
I mean, there's two big things, right? One, Tennessee has Georgia this week, so very easy
Mm-hmm.
to overlook that. And two, if Will Levis is a first round pick, he probably should be able to pass for more than 98 yards against the 120th pass defense in the league. Okay. Those two things coupled together shouldn't
Well,
have
they also
equaled
they
30-point
Tennessee
dogs.
Tennessee did get their safety back, which helps. Like, I
That,
know one player
that's
doesn't make a
worth
difference.
120th, Michael, not like
Well,
50th.
Minka Fitzpatrick makes that difference for the Steelers. I would say with or without Minka, they go from being like a good pass defense to 120th ranked in the NFL. Like, they're adding teams. There's
I,
XFL teams and arena teams with
I,
better defenses.
I will
without
say I
Minka.
was expecting a lot more from Levis, and the fact that he didn't even throw for fucking 100 yards is absolutely pathetic. And
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they
um,
had to score to keep up either.
right,
So
that's the thing. Like, did I think they were going to win? Absolutely not. Did I expect Levis to show us why he's the first round pick and keep them in the game against a horrible pass defense? I sure did.
yeah,
Lesson learned.
yeah. Hey, you live, you learn. There's a song about that.
All right, so what's our standings right now? Give it to us. This is a tight
Yeah. So
race.
I mean,
We
I
were
was
we were
really
talking.
nervous. I mean, I told you I was back and forth about the picks. I mean, I almost picked Louisville because I saw Jimmy actually picked Wake. I'm like, well, I should take Louisville. But I didn't. I almost
Home
took
dog.
K-State, but I didn't. Uh I took him in the parlay, which worked out, but or the teaser. Well, I took him in a parlay too. The parlay didn't hit, obviously. Our standings are in dead last still. EJ and Chris with 4 wins. But congrats to you guys for getting another win this week. Joe is also dead last with you at 4. Then Jimmy, 1 notch above at 5. Then Nick with 10, me with 12, and Nathan maintains a half-point advantage due to Sparty's half-point cover. And that's where we are.
There it is. It's coming down. We were just talking about this off.
Did I say Nathan or did I say Nick again? Nathan.
No, you
Did
said
I say
Nathan.
Nathan? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. My brain is like mush. So
Yeah, we're coming down the stretch here now, guys. We have 4 games left in college football, like in the regular
4
season.
weeks. 4
It's-
weeks.
Okay, most teams have done their bye. Okay, 4 weeks left. I guess if you have not had your bye
Oh,
yet.
well, then like I said, my brain's mush. Don't even listen to me. I'm just talking nonsense tonight. So
Regardless, it is coming down the stretch here. Obviously, a couple of improbable 3-0 weeks can catapult you, especially since no one seems to really have consistently stacked too many 2-win weeks in a row. So this is gonna be a tight one down the stretch here. I will say we probably need to touch on this briefly here, but right before, so we're recording this on Tuesday, and right before we jumped on, the first college football playoff rankings came out.
they did.
What are your thoughts on this? I have thoughts. What are your thoughts? Should we run through for everyone what the rankings are so far?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, should we'll just do the 4 in the playoff and then the 2 left out?
Actually, I kind of want to talk about some that aren't in that top 6.
You want to do like the top 25 or what
Top
do you
10.
want to do?
We'll just go top
10.
10.
Top
Yeah.
10.
All right.
Okay.
So at 10, there's LSU, the
Yes.
only 2-loss team there. So the committee sees them as the top of the 2-loss category. Obviously,
Or
a lot of
some with
this,
one loss, or some with one loss.
yeah. I'm just
Well, you look at the expanded, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Obviously, we'll just say this now. This is going to work itself out, so people shouldn't get too
Yeah.
riled up about it. However, there are definitely some implications based on where they started here. So you
Mm-hmm.
have LSU at 10, USC at 9, Oregon at 8, TCU at
Mm-hmm.
7,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama at 6,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan at 5, Clemson at 4,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia at 3,
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State at 2,
Mm-hmm.
and Rocky Top on top.
Boo.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is fair? Any surprises for you?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, I guess starting with like 10, I mean, I'm looking to see if there's teams that I would put above LSU. Maybe Ole Miss. I guess they figure that LSU's heading in a better direction than Ole Miss is. Um, I mean, that's the only one that's like screaming to me right now. I think OK State's pretty low. They're 10, 18. Um, USC and Oregon being right there, that I mean makes sense. TCU at 7, okay. Being at 6, that's totally fair. And Michigan being the first one out, I think that's probably realistic, especially given the game that was played this week. Clemson at 4, I mean, yeah, it's because it's Clemson, right? If any other team has that schedule and wins the way they win, I think they're out and Michigan's in. But the thing that really, and then Ohio State at 2, sure. The thing that really gets me and sticks in my craw is Tennessee at 1 and Georgia at 3. I think that that's just why is that the case? I mean, I guess they figure that like the win over Alabama is more impressive than any of Georgia's wins thus far, though. And I guess the way they decimated Kentucky too. But like, to quote Mr. Feinbaum, or the people that call Mr. Feinbaum, they ain't played nobody, Paul. They have, their signature wins came at home. We're going to see what happens when they play Georgia this week and how that all shakes out. But
Well, I
I
guess
don't know, man.
my question would be in rebuttal to that. Who's Georgia beat?
Right. I mean that's the reason, right? But Georgia's also your defending national champion and they're undefeated too. So like
Yeah,
usually that means something.
I so my thoughts were
Because
obviously
if it was
that's
sorry, just real quick, if it was Alabama, Alabama would be one. Agree or disagree?
if it were Alabama, like
If Alabama were undefeated and Tennessee was also undefeated, I think Alabama would be number one in this scenario. Like assuming they didn't play each other, right?
I would okay. So my thoughts on it is, and this is where obviously the subjectivity comes into it, but they clearly see that Tennessee, and I think I agree with it. Tennessee's win over Alabama is probably the signature win for any team in college football, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that there was a better win for any team in college football.
At
I
home with shitty refs, it was a great win.
So I would say when it comes to Georgia, they outside of absolutely murdering Oregon in the neutral site, not really, um, season opener, they have beaten bad teams, not blown them out. And again, it's not their fault, right? It's not their fault that their schedule is what it is. Obviously, they're
Right.
going to get a chance to rectify that this weekend. But I would say because Tennessee has won in more in better fashion, and maybe it's just the one win versus Kentucky again is better than any other Georgia win outside of the Oregon game. So I think I'm fine with that. Like I said, they're gonna hash it out. I think the most important thing for them that Michigan is probably going to be upset about is them both being in the top 3 or in the top 4 allows a scenario that the loser of next week's game could still potentially get in the playoff.
Yeah.
And with Michigan being fifth, clearly that shows, and it's not like Clemson is that impressive. But I think that shows that the Michigan's non-conference schedule caught up to them, and the fact that they I think Penn State's the only team that they really pulled away with and looked impressive against. Like they were tied at halftime against Indiana. They were only up 7 with Michigan State. Obviously, struggled to really pile it on like they should have. So I'm just thinking in this scenario, if Michigan loses to Ohio State and they're the one-loss team that doesn't go to the Big Ten championship, doesn't get that extra game, I don't think they're going to get that benefit of the doubt based on how the playoff committee is seeing them versus the Georgia Tennessee situation.
Well, but also if it also lays out a situation where if Georgia beats Tennessee, and I think this only happens if Georgia wins. I don't know if it happens if Tennessee wins. Maybe it happens if Tennessee wins, but I think it has a much better shot if Georgia wins. If Georgia, especially if it's a close game, if Georgia wins a close game, which I think if they were to win, it would be a close game. I think if Tennessee wins, there's a chance it could be a blowout. If Georgia wins a close game, Georgia and Alabama win out the rest of their games. Alabama wins the SEC. Then you have one loss, Alabama SEC champion. You have one loss, Georgia SEC runner up, and you have one loss, Tennessee, who lost to Georgia. Then that is a nightmare scenario. You probably have to leave Tennessee out in that situation. Like whoever wins this game between Tennessee and Georgia, like if they lose the SEC championship but win the rest of their games, I think they have a good shot making the playoffs still. But, I think that's kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what Clemson does, what Michigan does.
Also, Michigan's just not going to be Ohio State. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
I think. I mean, I don't know. Again, like I actually really haven't been able to watch Ohio State. Obviously, they've been without Smith and Jigba. He's going to be back for the Michigan game, so that changes what they have currently looked like. It's going to be in Columbus. Michigan hasn't won in Columbus in like 30 years, so it's stacked against them. And I don't know that I've seen anything thus far against lesser opponents that would make me think that they could go into Columbus. Now, if this game was in Ann Arbor, it'd be probably a different field for me. But yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of surprised at I'm not surprised. I mean, I was kind of surprised that Michigan was below Clemson, but I guess that just shows that because they really haven't blown anybody out and then they played any real team, the non-conference schedule was about the worst that you could possibly have. I mean, I guess not just because it's Michigan, but to me, I hate like boring non-conference games. I wish that teams were forced to play at least one Power Five school non-conference. So I appreciate that from the committee. Honestly, TCU below Alabama. There and the committee, the dude's reasoning was a little surprising to me. I know Alabama's your boys, but they are very easily a 2 to 3 loss team. Potentially, like right, they should have lost to Texas. They lost to Tennessee. They haven't looked great, and TCU's undefeated and have played. I mean, I guess you can have the argument of whether Big 12 schools are really any good, but TCU's been through a gauntlet. Now, I think they're going to end up losing one, and it's a moot point anyway. But I think that was just kind of surprising to begin with. And then Oregon, like maybe it's just because people can't get that nasty loss out of their minds. And again, Oregon's only been able to play who they've played, but I was kind of surprised. They've looked really, really, really good.
Yeah, they looked a lot better. And I think, I think if the, oh, sorry, you're good.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think they're a team that people are sleeping on. I think because you don't watch them because they're on at 11 o'clock, and you just have that seared in your brain how embarrassing that loss to Georgia was. I mean, again, they'll have a chance. I think if they win the Pac-12 one loss, I think they should be in. They have a lot of advanced metrics on their side. They've been blowing teams out, bad teams like they
and
should.
the Georgia loss was the first week,
right?
So like, I mean, teams change,
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be like, I don't know. we'll see what it really could go a lot of different ways,
Yeah,
assuming like
it could be chaos, and that will
it really
be
could be.
interesting.
It doesn't, I will say it this year definitely doesn't feel like a chaos, which other years I remember last year, like, oh my God, so many things could happen. This year it doesn't feel like a big chaos year. It feels like pretty clear to me on who the teams are going to be. I think the 4 teams they're in now are who's going to be in it. But it could be like I guess there are there could be a sneaky chaos year. So
I just
we'll
feel
see.
like of all the years where a 12 team playoff or anything more than four, this is the year for it, because again,
Yeah.
I think we could just all be eating crow next week if Georgia like says, okay, we haven't played anyone, but now we're ready, right? Now we're up for this game, and this is a
Mm-hmm.
quality opponent, and they just murder Tennessee, and it's like, okay, they're still the number
Oh,
one
I
team.
hope so.
But right
Oh, I
now,
hope
I don't
so.
think you can definitively say any of those teams in the top 10 are a surefire national champion. And that's not been the case for the last 5, 6 years, right? You've
Right.
known
That's
that
what I'm
it's been
saying.
one or two schools, right? This year, it could be any of them unless Georgia decides to be Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Like I said, not going to get too fired up about it because a lot of this is going to play itself out. But very
Indeed.
interesting to see what these first rankings are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why don't we get to our rivalry here? So we're talking about the Palmetto Bowl today. That is the game, an in-state rivalry game, cross-conference game between the South Carolina Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers. So the drink that we're drinking today is the Charleston Breakfast Coffee. So this is a signature coffee or a signature cocktail in Charleston, South Carolina. It is exactly what you think it is. It's Irish coffee, but with not Irish whiskey. So it's very simple. Get yourself a nice little dark roast. Get yourself a heavy cream. Whip it up into a nice lather
Whip.
there. Whip it. And they recommend using simple syrup instead of brown sugar, which is typically in an Irish coffee. And then you add your whiskey, and they have a brand that they recommend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it, but there is a distillery, High Wire Distilling Company from Charleston, and that is what they recommend.
High wire. Never
Yes,
even heard of them before.
me neither. But it is delicious. I'm drinking coffee because I have more work to do after after today, so I needed a little pick me up. But yeah, so
Yeah, I'm getting pinged on Slack right now, actually.
of course.
I just set myself as a way. So,
Cheers, everyone.
cheers. Tis the season.
Okay, so little fun fact here about this game. So since 2015, the two teams, so South Carolina and Clemson, have also competed in what's called the Palmetto Series. So that's the head-to-head competition between the two schools in more than a dozen sports. So this Palmetto competition
I love that.
extends, yes, beyond just football, which I also think is pretty awesome.
I love that. I love when schools do that. That's fantastic.
So, what do you think this trophy looks like?
Have you ever had Palmetto Brewing, by the way?
I have not.
Oh man, it's good stuff. It obviously it's in South Carolina. We went to Myrtle Beach one time. Man, it was good stuff. I like it quite a bit. Anyways, enough about that. Uh, you know, I have a friend, um, Josh, and his brother Ian and his wife Cammy really like Charleston, and they for I think it was for a wedding favor, or maybe it was just something random. I forget what they gave me, like a pineapple bottle opener. It's like a little gold pineapple with a bottle opener on the top that like it kind of comes out of the top of the pineapple. That's what I think the trophy looks like, just bigger.
Pineapple.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. I every time I think of Charleston, I think of that little bottle opener. So, I'm gonna go with that.
All right. We'll see if you're right.
I
So
gotta keep
we're
it interesting,
yeah, I know. So we are coming down to the final stretch here. So because this is an in-state rival, that means we have to do some state trivia. So we're gonna do a little bit of South Carolina state trivia.
Oh,
Are
okay.
are you ready?
I am ready. I
Great.
admittedly don't know much about South Carolina, so
Well, we're gonna put that to the test. So question number one: South Carolina was the blank number state to join the Union. Was it A, the eighth state, B, the 12th state, C, the 15th state, or D, the 18th state?
oh boy. I gotta think of my 13 original colonies. Would the Carolinas like one and then split off? I'm gonna say that's weird. Because they were the Carolinas, but when did they split? Was it after the colonies? I'm gonna say 12.
That is incorrect. They were the eighth state to join the
Eighth
Union
state. Okay.
back in 1788.
Okay. All right.
There you go. Number two, South Carolina is the country's second leading producer of what fruit? Is it A, apples, B, peaches, C, limes, or D, pineapples?
Probably not apples. I think peaches or pineapples. I'm gonna say pineapples because of the ball.
Oh, look at that. It is wrong.
Ah, well,
They are
give it a
the
shot.
second leading producer of peaches.
That I knew it was one of those two because it's so close to Georgia,
Correct. And Georgia is not the number one. Actually, South Carolina
Really?
at number two produces 3 times more peaches than Georgia. And they
Really?
throw shade on their travel information, joking about how Georgia takes all of the
All the
glamour
good
for that.
peaches?
Yeah. But I mean, Justin Bieber gets his peaches down in Georgia.
I get
Um,
yeah, indeed he does.
he also gets his weed from California, which is
Wonder where
actually the
Haley
leading
Steinfeld's from.
producer of fruit, of peaches. So
Oh,
it's California.
yeah. Okay.
There you go. Number three, South Carolina claims claim as the birthplace of what popular food? Is it A, apple pie, B, barbecue, C, hamburgers, or D, hot dogs? What do you think?
Well, hamburgers, the original, no, I don't think it was the hamburger recipe. Because there's a restaurant in Chicago that is like the first hamburger spot. I don't know if they claimed that they were the first people to make it by making Illinois the first state or what, but I don't think it was them. Uh Hot dogs, there was a story about like at a baseball game where they gave the wieners with like a glove, but then they ended up putting it in a bun. So I don't think that would be South Carolina either. Barbecue's pretty obscure. Like that's a pretty general thing. And when I think of like you hear like Kansas City barbecue, Texas barbecue, you never hear, although you do hear like Carolina vinegar. So it could be Carolina. Yeah, because you do hear a lot about Carolina white barbecue, but is that North or South Carolina? Doesn't matter. I'm gonna say apple pie though. It's the only one I
Incorrect.
can't think of. Was that correct?
Incorrect.
Incorrect. Okay. Was it barbecue?
It's barbecue.
Okay.
So how they describe it is from the original origin of barbecue. Um, Technically, it needs to be two things. It needs to be pork, and it needs to be the slow cooking technique of a full animal. So when how it's described back in 1566 is when this dates back.
1566.
Correct. So Native Americans were already putting full animals onto spigots and slow cooking them over an open flame. And the Spanish came over and introduced pig. So they used to in 1566. There's documents
That doesn't count.
and
That doesn't count. It's
drawings.
before South Carolina was even a state. It was before
Um,
the Union was even created. That's erroneous. Erroneous on all counts. I don't buy it. Sorry, go ahead.
so
Continue with your.
they lay claim to barbecue, and now that makes me really want to try South Carolina barbecue because it's interesting because you hear Carolina barbecue, but you always think North Carolina, and
Indeed.
maybe that's just wrong.
That's why I thought you were throwing a red
No,
herring out at me.
no.
So, hmm.
All right, number 4. South Carolina is known for having an island home to which animal? So this is an uninhabitable island or uninhabitable island for humans, but it is one specific animal on this island. Is it A, wolves? Is it B, parrots? Is it C, alligators? Or is it D, monkeys?
No, there's like a goat island in one of the Carolinas. I wish it was goat. Um, Gotta be parrots or monkeys. Monkeys.
That is correct.
Boom.
South Carolina's Morgan Island is home to a population of rhesus
Yep.
monkeys. Um,
They're very
and
intelligent. They're the helper monkeys.
okay, there you go. And
Yeah.
this island is highly guarded and not open to the general population.
Boom.
So you can't go and hang out with these monkeys. All right, last question here. South Carolina is the birthplace of sweet tea. Which city first made it? Is it A, Mount Pleasant, B, Sumter, C, Somerville, or D, Goose Creek?
Mount Pleasant.
Wrong. It is
Total shot in
C,
the dark.
Somerville, and that
Oh,
dates
that
back.
sounds so perfect. I thought you just made that up.
Yeah, so Somerville dates back to the 1700s. Sweet tea does, and they even have a sweet tea trail that you can follow to see the origins for yourself. And they also have sweet tea festivals. It's a whole ordeal down there.
Okay.
Well, there you go. There's a little state trivia for you. So why don't we talk a little bit more about this rivalry? So the first matchup was in 1896, and South Carolina won that 12-6. But Clemson won 13 of the first 17 matchups.
Okay.
So overall, Clemson leads the series 72 wins to 42 losses and 4 ties.
Mm-hmm.
And this series was played for 111 straight years until COVID canceled the game in 2020.
So no break for a world war, huh?
No, these guys don't care. So it was the longest continuous non-conference rivalry in the nation. It was the second largest continuous rivalry in Division I college football, and then it was also the longest uninterrupted rivalry series in the South. And another little fun fact for you: in the entire history of the series, the game has never been played anywhere besides Columbia, South Carolina, which is where the University of South Carolina is at, or Clemson. So it's always been on each other's campuses.
You know how they do at Clemson that whole bus ride to the stadium and stuff like that?
Yeah, isn't it like 100 feet?
Yeah, but like when you really think about it, it's just because that school is too cheap. They're not too cheap. They just built like a massive, Dabo Land football complex. Like that football building is insane. But like the locker rooms just aren't at the stadium. So you have to pack onto a bus and get bussed down to the stadium.
I will say the tradition of running down that hill just seems like a bad idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't know
Can't
how many
wait for
times.
Dabo to hurt himself.
Right. I don't, and clearly I feel like I would have heard about injuries happening there. So they must know how to do it, but that just seems like a bad idea.
The first time someone breaks their stuff going down that hill, it's going to stop. So I hope it's Dabo, but I don't wish that. I don't wish injury on people. I take it back.
Don't you wish that evil on me, Ricky Bobby?
All the best, Dabo. Not really, but.
All right, so guys, I have to give you another history lesson to really help paint the picture of this rivalry. So unlike major college rivalries, the South Carolina Clemson rivalry did not start because of like competitive sports or the beginning of football programs. This deep-seated bitterness begins way before Clemson even received its charter and became a college. So the two institutions were founded 88 years apart. So South Carolina College was founded in 1801, and Clemson Agricultural College was founded in 1889.
Okay.
Now, what do you think could have made this rivalry so heated before even one of the schools existed?
Dabo Sweeney.
Incorrect. What is something that people just can never agree with, and you're usually on polar opposite sides of something?
Can never agree with on total opposite. I mean, that's like there's so many things. Like I don't know. Uh gosh, the list is like endless here. Can you give me like a ballpark on this? Like
Sure. An important date is coming up in a week, next Tuesday.
birthday? Wait,
Whose
or what?
birthday?
Well,
Tuesday is voting day,
oh,
Michael.
Tuesday's voting day.
Politics.
Okay.
Politics is, of course, what made this a heated rivalry before even one of the schools was created.
Like whose birthday, Dad?
So, South Carolina College was founded in 1801 to unite and promote harmony between the Low Country and the Back Country. It closed during the Civil War when its students aided the Southern cause and joined the Confederates. But the closure gave politicians an opportunity to reorganize it to its liking. So the radical Republicans in charge of the state government during Reconstruction opened the school to African Americans and women while appropriating generous funds to the university, which caused the white citizens of the state to withdraw their support for
The backcountry boys didn't like that.
Yes, and view it as a symbol of the worst aspects of the Reconstruction. So, just to give people, I know radical Republicans probably sound like something you'd call them today, but they were a faction of American politicians within the Republican Party from its founding in 1854 until Reconstruction in 1877. But they called themselves radicals because of their goal of immediate, complete, and permanent eradication of slavery without compromise.
How
So,
dare them?
radical
How dare them?
Republicans in this case are good. So the Democrats returned to power in 1877 following their electoral victory over the radical Republicans, which prompted them to close the university. And so the sentiment in the South favored opening an agricultural college. So the university was reorganized as the South Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts. And that in and in 1882 the college was renamed to its antebellum name, which, if anyone is unclear, was the time of the South leading up to the Civil War. So that's where the promotion of slavery and then the life back then. That's why that is not good.
So Lady Annabelle's racist?
That's why they're Lady A. Yes. So while that obviously encapsulate just the Southern traditions at the time, that goes beyond slavery, but obviously a very key component of that was slavery.
Right.
So probably shouldn't be glamorized there. So but they renamed it back to just South Carolina College, which infuriated the farmers who felt that the will of the people were, de-emphasizing the agricultural education. So Clemson, from its beginning, was an all-white military, like male military school, and it remained that way all the way up until 1955, when it changed to civilian status and became a co-educational institution and kind of became what we know as it is today. However, that skips over how Clemson became a school and really where this deep-seated hatred comes from. So beginning in 1880s, Benjamin Tillman was a leader of the agrarian movement in South Carolina and demanded that the South Carolina College take agricultural education more seriously and expand that agricultural
we got peaches
department.
to grow.
Right. He needed those farmers. So in 1885, he convinced the agricultural or the then president of that school, Stephen D. Lee, to try and create a separate agricultural college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he really wanted to settle for nothing less. And he unfortunately didn't get his way. But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, when the Republicans got their power back, they
Mm-hmm.
did create a college from 1887 to 1890. But there were a lot of kind of smear campaigns that really caused the support for that school to still be pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to 1886, and a fellow named Thomas Green Clemson, and he decided to agree to give his estate, the Fort Hill estate, to establish this agricultural college. So Tillman was all
What
about
a
it.
guy.
I know, but Tillman didn't want to wait until Clemson died to start this college, so he really pushed the state
Push
assembly.
push Clemson in front of a bus. That's what.
I think he probably thought about it. I'm sure. I'm sure back then he probably thought about just going out and shooting him. I wouldn't put it past.
Thanks for the cash, homie.
Right. So he basically just really pleaded for the state government to give some of the funds to create this separate college, but they decided to not do that. However, they less than 9 days later, Clemson did die in 1888. And
Under what circumstances?
it doesn't say. It does not say. However, the state didn't necessarily have to accept the gift from Clemson, right? And the conservatives that were in power opposed the move, and an all-out war for power just happened because of that. So basically what ends up happening is you just still have Tillman really fighting hard to get this college, and the
Yeah.
government at the time did not want to give it to him.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is in 1888, that the election there afforded Tillman an opportunity to convince the politicians to accept the Clemson bequest and face the possibility of being voted out. So he demanded that the Democratic Party nominate its candidates by primary system, which was denied, but they did accept his request that the candidates for statewide office canvass the state. So Tillman provided an excellent campaign to try and get his Democratic people into office so that they would accept this college. I don't know why this guy was so passionate about this, but he really did. So
Mm-hmm.
he ends up getting this college finally created, and they accepted the will. But Tillman also ended up running for governor.
Oh.
Yes. So he was still very angry at all the people that were in power that wouldn't give him that college beforehand. So then he became governor and basically went on a revenge tour. So
Nice.
he just basically just went after all the people in power that wronged him, and made sure that they weren't
Love me a
able
good
to.
grudge. Good
Yeah,
for him.
yeah. So he he really just went all out and stopped, and just like I said, went on a revenge tour of all the people that wronged him, and he leveled his harshest criticism towards the University of South Carolina, obviously because they wanted nothing to do with this college and didn't want to give up any of their land plot to make this college. So he called them a dude factory. And
A
this,
dude factory.
I don't know. Dude factory must have been not a great thing back then.
That sounds like Sigma Chi at State.
Yeah. So he tried to close it. He tried to close the university, couldn't get it closed, couldn't get South Carolina closed. So he was successful in reorganizing the university into a liberal arts college. Who got them good. Um, and then it eventually would be rechartered for the last time in 1906 as the University of South Carolina. However, the Clemson Agricultural College held sway over the state legislatures for decades and was generally the more popular college during the first half of the 20th century in South Carolina. So
okay.
basically, you just have this whole thing where South Carolina was created, but didn't like farmers. You have one powerful, determined ass man who creates this, eventually gets this agricultural college created, becomes governor, invokes war on the South Carolina University, and it just completely did it what he could, and the politicians that supported him to make it miserable for the University of South Carolina for decades.
Ah, I like I said, I appreciate a good grudge.
Yeah, this one was a lot, and yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Mr. Clemson, but it is very interesting that you had someone bound and determined to accept this gift, but didn't want to wait for that dude's death. So we'll leave it at there. Did someone poison the little brown jug? Did Clemson get murdered? I don't know. I don't know.
Who's to say? Impossible to
Who's to say?
say.
All right. So in 1999, so this rivalry for decades was called the Palmetto Bowl by, just by nickname.
Right,
It didn't
right,
have
right.
a trophy attached to it until 1999, and that's when the Hardee's Trophy was introduced. So go
Like the
ahead.
restaurant.
Yes. So go ahead and scroll down and tell me what you think about
Was
this
it
trophy.
sponsored by Hardee's, the restaurant?
Yes.
That looks like what was created by Hardee's, the restaurant. It's very 1999. It's got a black base, circular base with this is like so 1999. A black circular base with a like plaque, excuse me, a plaque on the front that says Palmetto Trophy, awarded annually to the winner of Clemson University of South Carolina football game. I assume there's plaques with the scores and stuff like that on it. There's a gold base, again circular, with 4 eagles on the base, and then there's 4 gold columns that go up to another black circular base, which then has a gold football on like a little stand on top of it. So it looks like a pretty, it reminds me like the first iteration of the Cyhawk, like
Yeah.
just the classic, football trophy, but like pretty standard, pretty standard fare.
Yeah. Well, this trophy, like I said, was awarded first in 1999 and would last 15 years before it was replaced.
Okay.
So that is not the current trophy.
Okay.
So enter the Palmetto Bowl. So the annual game was dubbed unofficially the Palmetto Bowl, beginning back in the 1950s. But in 2014, it was officially recognized as such, when both athletic departments agreed to just formally adopt the long reference nickname. Introduced before the 2015 season, the Palmetto Bowl Trophy replaced the Hardee's Trophy as the award given to the winner of that game. So scroll down and tell me what you think of the current Palmetto Bowl Trophy.
Fancy. This is the current trophy?
Correct.
Well, it looks small.
You scroll down
small.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is small. So it's probably like a foot tall, I guess. Foot and a half, maybe.
Yeah, it's probably a foot and a half.
It's a black base with a silver plaque on it that says the Palmetto Bowl. It has Clemson and South Carolina's logo on it. It has smaller plaques for the games and the scores. And then on top of that black base with the silver plaques, there is a silver palmetto tree, and then or I guess just a palm tree. What's the difference between a palm and a palmetto?
I mean, it is a palmetto tree, but yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. There you go.
That's a state tree. That's a state tree.
Okay, a silver palmetto tree, and then a on the base that the palmetto tree is on, a little silver base. It has like the Clemson logo, and it has the South Carolina logo etched on it. And the Clemson one's colored in orange. The South Carolina one, I assume, probably has like a red or black etching on it. It's hard to tell in the picture.
I don't think so. I think it's just silver, because you can see the color in the
Yeah,
logo on the big base.
yeah. I mean, they didn't obviously they didn't color it in. I'm wondering if like the etching around it is like red. Because why give Clemson colored in orange and have that one just silver? That's
I
a
don't know.
big if that is the case, it's a big knock against the for me. You just give Clemson the color, but you don't give any coloring to South Carolina. That stinks.
I mean that you just got done listening how Clemson was the favorite school for decades.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really blown away by this one. I'm not gonna lie. They could have gone a different direction, man. I mean, make it bigger at least, you know. Yeah, that stinks.
So Clemson holds a 44 win to 29 loss to 2 tie advantage in the modern era, so post World War II. And Clemson leads the series 14-7 in the 21st century. So Clemson's 72 wins overall against South Carolina is more than any other program has. And South Carolina's 42 wins against Clemson is third most behind Georgia's 43 wins and Georgia Tech's 50 wins.
Hmm.
So let me give you a little bit of parting ways about this rivalry here. So there's a ritual. So every year, each school engages in a ritual involving the other team's mascot. So South Carolina holds the Tiger Burn, and Clemson holds a mock funeral for Cocky, which can we just talk about the new nickname for the stupid mascot and how they should have stuck to their guns and went with Cock Commander. That would have been incredible.
I agree.
So after 7 students, 6 from South Carolina and 1 from Clemson died in the Ocean Isle beach fire in 2007, the Cocky funeral was canceled and the Tiger Burn was changed to the Tiger Teardown for that year.
But it's back to being the Tiger Burn and the funeral for Cocky now.
Correct.
Ocean Isle Beach. Oh, wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I like
So
the ritual.
yeah, no, I think that's pretty unique that that's something that gets to continue. I feel like nowadays stuff like that wouldn't
Yeah.
acceptable. I know there's like fun little things where and maybe there's more and it's just again not captured. But painting a car, we did that in high school where there's a car dealership that would paint junk cars and let fans come up and take a sledgehammer to it. So
Yeah.
I always think those are a little fun. All right, so that's going to do it for us with this. Why don't we get to our rankings? So we are ranking on a scale from 1 to 5 for the looks of the trophy, the history of the trophy, the history of the rivalry, and the overall competitiveness of the rivalry, and then whether it fits into a bottom, middle, or top tier. So what do you think, Mike?
Looks wise, I'm gonna give it like a 1.5. I think this trophy stinks. It stinks. There's so much more that they could have done with it. Like if it was just like the way it looks isn't so bad. Like the palmetto tree is nice. It just is small. So I guess like all of the 1.5 is really going towards I think the tree's cool. That's a good idea, I guess. But it stinks. The history of the trophy is a 1. I mean, Hardy's created the first one, and then it stinks. The rivalry itself, I'm gonna say, I mean, they have like this is I think it's cool that it's the Palmetto Series overall. Obviously, there's a lot of hate and animosity between these schools before they were even created. So clearly they don't like each other. So just like the rivalry and the pure hatred in state, I'm going to say 4.5. Competitiveness, 3. Like right in the middle of the road there. At 2.5. It shouldn't be middle of the road. It should be 2.5. So then overall, I'm going to say bottom tier.
That is surprising for me.
Why is that?
Because we have seen some trophies in our 2 years. Just
yeah, it stinks. This is just like so like it's just why is the orange tiger paw like colored in and the gamecock thing isn't. Like, and also like just do the gamecock. Like it stinks. It stinks, man.
That's
I
fair.
would say
I have, I don't know, in my head I have like, if we're looking at a scale of 1 to 5, I have very clear like qualifications starting at 3, and whether you're below that or above that. And then depending on how awesome or terrible you are, like, varies for me.
yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, I think the looks there are 3.5. I think I
Oh,
I hate trophies that I can get when I was a kid. So for it to be something that is like that first Hardy's trophy is a 1, because it's just a boring trophy with a football on it, right? Like nothing to do with the school or the schools, nothing to do with the state. Just run of the mill, boring trophy. So for me, if you are just unique in any way, you're over a 3. Now, this is on the lower end of the uniqueness because of its size. And I mean, the coloring doesn't really bother me that much, to be honest with you. I'm sure it has to do with the little Gamecock in the logo probably would screw with coloring because it's how
make it
small those.
red. Make just part of it red. I don't care. Do something. You can't have the one colored in, the other not. That
Yeah,
bothers the hell out of me.
I
Like
mean,
it
but
might have
if
been
you
a
do it
2.
red, it's
It'd
not
probably be
sure.
a 2.5 if they could get there. But then also the size of it stinks.
I
It
mean,
stinks.
if you're gonna color that in, you're not gonna color it in with an incorrect logo, right? Like if you put red, where are you gonna put red in the C? It's not
Make
the
the
logo.
C red.
That's not the
Make this.
logo. It's like, oh, okay, make the Michigan State S white. Like if it's green, it's green. Like it is what it is.
Well,
I don't
then
know.
they shouldn't have done. Then they should have done
Sure,
the
you can.
outline
Yeah,
for the. They should have done the outline orange for the tiger paw and the outline of the other one black with red. It stinks. I hate
okay.
it.
I'm gonna go with the 3.5 for looks. I'm gonna go the history of it, 3. Again, like the fact that they felt the need to create a trophy, um, that they fixed their terrible trophy the first time round. Again, nothing crazy. There's no crazy story about why they did it. It just was, hey, we're going to actually officially dub this. We shouldn't have this stupid corporate trophy. So just a solid 3 there for me. The rivalry, because it's an in-state rival, it automatically starts at a 4. And I think the fact that you're burning tigers and having funerals for the cock commander, I believe that that is a 4.5. And the fact that you just have such a deep-seated hate dating
Yeah,
back to before even one school
yeah,
was created. That gives me, no, that's going
yeah.
to be a 5 for me. That's going to be a
Okay,
5. We're
okay,
going to go up to
yeah.
5.
Your
And then the
first 5 of the
competitive,
season.
yeah. So the competitiveness for me is a 2.5. So I think it's not terrible, especially modern day, but it still hasn't been very competitive for the South for the Gamecocks. But so just barely under average there for me. And then this will land middle tier for me. I appreciate
Ah,
uniqueness. Whether yes, the size of it stinks, but I appreciate uniqueness. I cannot put any of the gross, boring football trophies that we have seen over the last 2 years above that. I just can't. It's not.
yeah,
That's just how I grade.
yeah.
It is what it is. Like
Fair.
Neapolitan pizza is a certain rating for a certain guy. That's where I am with trophies. If you are not a basic football on a fucking stand trophy, you're gonna at least start at a certain spot for me. Sorry, but
Fair.
this is probably one of the worst unique ones. That's fair.
Fair.
So this game will be played on the last weekend of the year during rivalry week. So unfortunately, it will not be this weekend. Clemson has a date with Notre Dame to determine whether or not they're going to stay in this playoff hunt, essentially. So um, that's going to do it for us this week. So please follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And this is something we haven't asked for yet, but we'd really, really appreciate it. We'd love, if you guys really love this podcast, can you please rate us on Spotify or Apple? I know it doesn't sound like it helps, but getting ratings and getting so many ratings is very helpful for us. So please, if you do like this podcast, just take a small amount of time on whatever you are listening to it on and give us a rating. We'd really, really appreciate it.
Please, please.
Also, again, we would really appreciate comments on how to make this podcast better. We are not experts. This is just a fun thing on the side. We are always looking to improve. We would really appreciate your comments as well. And then also, don't forget to check us out on Saturday morning with our bets and really keep track of it over these next 4 weeks to see who is going to win our Pick'em Challenge.
Yeah, buddy.
Really coming down to, it looks like 3 people, but you never know. I hope there's a chaos week where you have the top have a bad week and the bottom have a great week. So it's just like a 7-person line. That would be amazing. Not likely, but would be incredible.
I'm going whiskey shopping. I'm already thinking about what you're going to buy me.
So join us next week when we talk about a classic trophy, the Golden Boot. For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much with whiskey is nearly enough.
Cheers, boys.